5 years after being welcomed back into the Vance family fortune, Leo Hayes, the boy my parents had raised as their own, ran me down with his car and shattered my leg. My parents and my fiancée Chloe rushed me to the hospital in a frenzy. When a doctor announced I might spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair, Chloe immediately proposed, vowing to take care of me forever. My parents cut ties with Leo, telling me to hand over the evidence and focus on my recovery. Later, they told me Leo, consumed by guilt, had drowned himself while on the run. I believed them. It wasn't until my 5th wedding anniversary that I saw him, the man who was supposed to be dead. He was holding my son, speaking softly to Chloe. "Thank God for you and Mom and Dad all these years. Otherwise, Caleb might have really sent me up the river. That will go to his grave, never knowing his son is mine." Mom and Dad even helped me, destroying the evidence and swapping his recovery medication for vitamins. "Chloe, I'm so sorry you've had to go through this. Marrying that useless and putting on an act." "Don't say that," she whispered back. "It was the only way. By being his wife, I could sign the affidavit of forgiveness on his behalf at any time. Clearing your name for good as long as you're okay. It was all worth it." The marriage I had seen as my salvation was nothing but a meticulously crafted lie. My own parents had deceived and broken me for the sake of the son they raised. Fine, if that's how it is, I'll just leave. In a hospital lobby, I watched Leo holding my son, standing with Chloe, the perfect picture of a happy family. A gaping hole ripped open in my chest, the pain so sharp I couldn't breathe. The son I treasured wasn't mine. The wife who swore to care for me forever was in love with a man who tried to kill me. And my own parents, after destroying the evidence against him, still didn't trust me. They needed Chloe married to me so she could at any moment produce the legal document that would guarantee Leo's freedom. My phone rang. It was my mother. "Caleb, honey, why did you go to the hospital by yourself? We're almost there. Where are you?" Hearing the urgency in her voice, a raw fury coiled in my gut. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. "Oh, I figured I couldn't trouble you guys forever. I thought I'd handle this physical therapy session on my own. We're family, Caleb. You could never be a bother. Are you at the hospital now? We'll be right there." They had accompanied me to every single therapy session before. I thought it was out of love and concern. Now, I knew it was for a different reason entirely. "Yeah, I just got here about to head into the main lobby." I maneuvered my wheelchair around a corner, deliberately setting the trap. Just as I expected, her tone grew frantic. She told me not to go in, that it was too crowded and unsafe, and that they were just around the corner and would come get me. I coldly agreed and hung up just in time to see Chloe answer her own phone. Her face immediately tensed. She whispered something to Leo, then took the boy from his arms and hurried out of back exit. Leo vanished into the crowd. I understood perfectly. My parents had tipped her off. They weren't worried about my safety. They were terrified I would see Leo and Chloe together. Shock and grief crashed over me. A wave of pain that nearly drowned me. Everyone, every single person was lying to me for the sake of the man who had ruined my life. The sharp pain in my palms brought me back to my senses. If this is the game they want to play, I'll burn the whole damn stage down. I pulled out my phone, started a voice recording, and wheeled myself to the hospital's main entrance to meet my parents as they rushed in. My mother's eyes darted around nervously. "Caleb, why didn't you wait for us before going in?" My father stood beside her, his brow furrowed. "We told you it's chaotic in there. We don't like you being in here alone. You were taking a while and I had to use the restroom," I said calmly, my expression unreadable. My mother's voice was tentative. You didn't see anyone, did you?" Her anxious expression was a knife in my heart. In that moment, I wanted to scream at her. Why did you lie to me? But I knew there was no point. I had already decided to leave. Anyone? I was in a hurry. Spent the whole time in the bathroom. I didn't notice a thing. Seeing that I wasn't lying, they both visibly relaxed. "Come on, let's get you upstairs," my father said, taking the handles of my wheelchair. My mother knelt and adjusted the mask on my face. "The flu has been bad lately. We have to be careful. Mom would be heartbroken if he got sick." Before, her worried eyes would have moved me to tears. Now, I couldn't feel a shred of love in her gaze. We went up to the physical therapy center on the 12th floor. I lay on the table as the therapist administered the anesthetic, then drifting in a hazy state between sleep and consciousness. I heard them talking to the therapist. "Mr. Vance's leg has been without proper treatment for too long. If we don't operate soon, he'll genuinely never walk again. We've only ever done partial therapy sessions, and I've been switching his medication to vitamins as you instructed. Mr. Advance, Are you really going to watch your young son lose the ability to walk forever? I brought you here from Europe and have paid you a fortune, not for you to ask me stupid questions. You'll do as I say. My father's voice was steel. My mother chimed in, so what if he can't walk? We can support him for the rest of his life. What business is it of yours? And don't you forget who's been signing your checks for the last 5 years? You work for us, not this hospital. The therapist quickly conceded. No, of course. I only meant that after so many years of anesthesia, Mr. Vance might develop an immunity. What should we do then? That's your problem to solve. Just make sure his leg doesn't get better, but doesn't get worse either. You find that balance. Yes, sir. The door opened and closed as my parents left. I lay on that table, feeling like I was trapped in a frozen hell. They didn't know my body had already started building a tolerance to the anesthetic. I heard every word and I had recorded it all. To keep me broken, they had hired a private doctor from overseas and kept him on their payroll for 5 years. No wonder this therapy center was isolated on the inpatient floor. It was all a sham. A sharp pain shot through my chest as silent tears streamed from the corners of my eyes. After the session, my parents pushed me home with fawning concern. Chloe, who had been cooing over Leo at the hospital just 2 hours earlier, greeted us at the door wearing an apron. Honey, therapy must have been exhausting. I made you some chicken soup. It'll help you get better faster. Her eyes were filled with tenderness and worry, as if she were still the same woman who had promised to love and care for me for the rest of our lives. If I hadn't seen her with Leo with my own 2 eyes, if I hadn't heard their conversation, her performance would have moved me. But now her smile was a grotesque mask. She never loved me. She loved the monster who put me in this chair. To protect him, she had sacrificed her own marriage, faking 5 years of love for me. I looked over at my son playing on his phone on the sofa. After all these years, I finally realized it. He had never once called me Dad. Chloe always made excuses, saying he was too young, that it was normal, that I shouldn't worry. Now I knew why I wasn't his father. At dinner, my mother stared at the dishes on the table, her eyes suddenly welling with tears. Chloe immediately put down her fork. Eleanor, what's wrong? My father sighed, rubbing her back. She must have seen the steak FRE. It was Leo's favorite. She's thinking of him. That boy, even though he did a terrible thing, we raised him for nearly 20 years. It's not like he deserved to die for it. I felt their eyes on me, studying my reaction. A bitter taste filled my mouth. Not like he deserved to die. So I deserve this. Was this my punishment? Caleb, Chloe said gently. It's been 5 years. Leo was only 20 at the time. He must have just lost his head. We grew up together. He always had a possessive streak. He probably felt like you were trying to take everything from him. 5 days from now is the anniversary of his death. I know you don't want to go. Is it okay if I go with your parents to visit his grave? She watched me, her gaze apprehensive, as if expecting an outburst. Fine, you should go, I said, my voice flat. After all, he was in this family longer than I was. It's natural for you all to have feelings for him. Chloe let out a quiet breath of relief, her voice softening even more. Caleb, I knew you'd understand. You're too kind to hold a grudge against your dead brother. My mother wiped her eyes. My sweet boy, our real son is so much more understanding. I buried my face in my bowl, letting my tears fall unseen so they didn't know I was their real son. A knot of pain tightened in my stomach, claiming I felt sick. I went back to my room. Chloe brought me an antacid, her eyes brimming with worry and pity. While I didn't want to talk, she silently brought a bowl of warm water and a washcloth and gently wiped my face. For the 10 years after they found me, her world had revolved around me. She had even coldly rejected Leo when he confessed his feelings for her. Now I finally understood she didn't love me. She wanted to marry the future heir of Vance Industries. For her, love and marriage were 2 separate transactions. Late that night, after Chloe and our son were asleep, I quietly took her phone from the nightstand. The password was Noah's birthday. Her pinned chats and WhatsApp were with me, then my parents. I scrolled through everything but found nothing suspicious. It wasn't until I tried switching accounts on Instagram that I found it. Her private account, her Finina. There was only one person she followed and who followed her back. Leo Chloe, it's been 5 years. How much longer do I have to hide? He doesn't have any evidence I hit him and he's a now. He's not a threat. Are you really going to keep our son away from his father forever? Chloe's reply was soothing. Your dad and I are working on a permanent solution. Just be patient. It turned out they had brought Leo back to the States days ago, given him a new identity, and even set him up with a real estate company. 5 days from now wasn't his death anniversary. It was the company's ribbon-cutting ceremony. My hand trembled as I opened his feed. The photos made my blood run cold. For the past 5 years, they had sent Leo to London, where he lived a life of luxury. He wore clothes from our family's designer labels and lived in a mansion owned by Vance Industries. Every time Chloe claimed she was going on a business trip, she was flying to London to be with him. Even my own parents were in the photos, their faces beaming with happiness. In that moment, I knew they were the family. I was the intruder. I fought back the burning tears, methodically screenshotting everything before switching back to her main account. That's when I noticed she had changed her bio. For years, her bio had been a single word. Waiting. When I asked her what it meant, she smiled and said she was waiting for my leg to heal. Now, her bio read, reunion. I finally understood. She wasn't waiting for me. She was waiting for Leo to return. Reunion. Leo was coming home. I placed the phone back on her nightstand and went out to the balcony to make a call. Hello. I need to book a one-way ticket to Switzerland for 5 days from now. 5 days. It was more than enough time to say goodbye to 5 years of lies. I returned to bed and stared at the ceiling until dawn. The next day at lunch, my phone lit up with a notification. Chloe, sitting beside me, glanced over and her face went pale. Honey, what account are you closing? I calmly locked the screen. My debit card is about to expire. I just scheduled an appointment to get a new one. She opened her mouth to say something else, but her own phone rang. Caleb, something's come up at the office. I have to go. I'm sorry. I can't stay for lunch. I nodded. As she was leaving, Noah started fussing. Wanted to go with her. My parents stepped in, promising to take him to the park, and Chloe rushed out. I was alone in the house. As I was about to head out, a friend request popped up on my phone. It was Leo. Caleb, you heard everything in the hospital yesterday, didn't you? Your wife and your son are both mine. The second the doctors told your parents the accident might have made you sterile, they chose to protect me. They had Chloe get with me to give me an heir. We're the real married couple. You're just a pathetic joke. They even started a company for me. The ribbon cutting is in 5 days. I bet they didn't tell you about that either, did you? My only regret is that I didn't you sooner. All of this should have been mine from the start. Every word was a nail driven into my heart. So that was it. The possibility of no heir. That's why they protected him. That's why Chloe was so willing to have his child. I screenshotted the messages and found the marriage certificate Chloe and I had signed. Then tucked away at the bottom of her nightstand. I found it, the affidavit of forgiveness. Clutching the documents, I went to see my lawyer. He told me the chat logs weren't concrete evidence and that a legally filed affidavit from spouse was binding. But when I asked him to draft divorce papers, he frowned, examining our certificate. This is a fake, he said. The world tilted. My heart plunged into an abyss. Leo was right. I was a fool, a clown in their circus. But then my lawyer's eyes lit up. If this marriage certificate is fraudulent, he said, then her affidavit on your behalf has no legal standing. This constitutes obstruction of justice, an accessory after the fact. Overwhelmed with gratitude, I asked him to help me file a formal complaint. From his office, I took an Uber to a different hospital for a full medical examination. When the doctor told me my leg could be saved, I wept with joy. He explained that the accident had caused an obstruction that led to my infertility, but a simple surgery could fix it. And because my leg fracture hadn't been allowed to worsen over the past 5 years, surgery could restore my ability to walk. It's clear your family has taken excellent care of you, the doctor remarked. If they hadn't, after 5 years, this leg would have been beyond repair. A cold, bitter irony washed over me. He had no idea. My family was the very reason I couldn't walk. No, they aren't my family anymore. Leaving the hospital, I received another message from Leo. It was a photo. Chloe was nestled against him, holding their son with my parents sitting on either side of them. A perfect family of 5, smiling radiantly in a massive villa. On the wall behind them was a piece of calligraphy framed in gold, written by my father himself, frowny face, a harmonious home is a prosperous home. Those words burned my eyes. Their home had never ever included me. I went back to the house in a daze and lay on my bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. Hours later, I heard the housekeeper's voice downstairs. They were back. My bedroom door opened softly. Chloe walked to my bedside and leaned down to hug me. Honey, I'm sorry. I've been so swamped with work, I haven't had time for you. Your birthday is the day after tomorrow. Your parents and I have been planning a special party for you. I said nothing. She placed a soft kiss on my forehead, tucked the blanket around me, and left. I suddenly remembered. 5 years ago, it was on my birthday that my parents announced my engagement to Chloe. That was what had sent Leo into a rage. What had made him get in his car and run me down. In the 5 years since returning to this family, I'd always felt like an outsider, unable to be as casually affectionate with my parents as Leo was. At our shared birthday parties, Leo was always the star. Charming guest I didn't even know. Only I deserve a party like this. He once sneered. You're just some charity case from an orphanage. You don't belong. He always had to be the center of attention. I didn't expect this time to be any different. That's why when I saw him at my birthday party, I felt nothing. He was dressed as a waiter wearing a face mask, and he walked right up to me the moment my family recognized him. Their expressions were a priceless, chaotic mix of panic and shock. What are you doing here? This is insane. If Caleb finds out, all these years will have been for nothing. My father hissed. My mother pleaded with him. Richard, he hasn't been home in so long. He dismisses us. Don't be so hard on him. Besides, with that disguise, Caleb will never know. Even Chloe was moved by his pathetic, pained expression. It's my birthday, too, Chloe, Leo whispered to her. I want to cut the cake. Okay, she agreed. Caleb can't get up there easily anyway. If you want to cut it, go ahead. And so, right in front of me, Leo cut into the towering 6-foot-tall cake that was supposed to have been for me alone. With a flourish of dark humor, he sliced the chocolate figure of me on top in half. Daddy, my son, Noah, seemed to recognize him, reaching his little hands out. Everyone froze, staring at us. Chloe, panicked, snatched the plate from Leo's hand, and knelt. Yes, sweetie. This chocolate looks just like Daddy, doesn't it? Then, turning to me, her voice was bright and false. Caleb, did you hear that? Noah said, Daddy, aren't you happy? I had the sneer on my face. It was almost laughable. Her ability to lie had evolved to an art form. My parents' perfect daughter-in-law, so clever. My parents, relieved, quickly scooped up Noah and carried him away. The grand ballroom was buzzing with people, and Chloe was busy playing hostess. I wanted some fresh air. As I started to will myself away, a pair of hands took the handles from behind. It was Leo. He pushed me toward the garden. Long time no see, brother. His voice was dripping with smug satisfaction. Did you see that? When they sang happy birthday, the whole family was looking at me. After all these years, they still love me more than you. You know, if you just ate a good little orphan instead of coming back here to steal my life, none of this would have happened. Now look at you, your wife is mine. Your son is mine. If I were you, I'd be so ashamed I'd have killed myself by now. I looked up at him. Shouldn't you be the one who's ashamed? The woman you wanted was engaged to me, so you resorted to a pathetic, violent stunt that almost landed you in prison. Now you have to live under a fake name. A coward who has to wear a disguise just to see his own family. Isn't that humiliating? I hit a nerve. He kicked my wheelchair hard. What have you got to be proud of? You useless piece of trash. Mom and Dad destroy the evidence. You can act high and mighty all you want, but you can't touch me. Fuming, he pushed me forward all the way to the edge of the swimming pool. He smiled. Today, let's see who they really care about. With that, he shoved my wheelchair, sending us both plunging into the water. Icy water flooded my nose and mouth. Caleb, Leo, Chloe, and my parents sprinted toward the pool. The water churned. Chloe was swimming frantically in my direction. I struggled, reaching out my hand, only to watch her swim right past me and grab Leo. A moment later, my parents were at the edge, hauling him out of the water. I let out a bitter laugh and let my hand fall, sinking deeper. Just as my consciousness began to fade, Chloe returned, grabbing me and pulling me to the surface. Leo and I lay side by side on the concrete. My son crawled over to him, wailing, Daddy, Daddy, over and over. My parents were also bent over him, crying his name. Leo's eyes fluttered open. His wheelchair, suddenly sped up. He gasped. I tried to save him, but he pulled me in with him. Whispers erupted from the surrounding guests. I heard his adopted brother was the one who hit him with the car 5 years ago on his birthday. Oh God, do you think he was trying to, you know? Chloe looked at me, a flicker of guilt in her eyes. My father's face was pale with fear and dread. My mother threw herself on me, sobbing. Caleb, my son, why would you do something so foolish? We'll take care of you forever. You know that. I watched their performance with cold eyes, a bitter taste filling my mouth. They were worried about Leo, but in front of all these people, they had to put on a show. Pathetic. Before Leo was whisked away, he shot me a look of triumphant provocation. My birthday party ended in chaos. The family took me to the hospital. When the doctor confirmed I was fine, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. A few new messages from Leo came through. Did you see? She saved me first. And did you hear your parents? They were screaming for their son. If you're not an idiot, you should get the picture. Their bond with me is deeper than anything they'll ever have with you. We were a family for 20 years. So tell me again, who's the humiliating one? I ignored him, screenshotting the messages as always. That night, after dropping me at home, the entire family went to Leo's villa to take care of him. I went to the study. I printed out every screenshot, every photo, every chat log. Then I copied the audio file from the hospital onto a flash drive. It was my final parting gift. The next day, they still hadn't returned. Chloe sent a text saying she and my parents were going to buy things for Leo's memorial service and that the housekeeper would look after me. I laughed coldly and called for the housekeeper, telling him to pack up every single gift Chloe had ever given me and throw it all in the trash. Next, I went back to the study and took down the calligraphy scroll my father had written for me. I tossed it into the fireplace. It had only one word on it, frowny face health. He wrote, a harmonious home for Leo, but only health for me. The irony was staggering. He was the one who had stolen my health, who wanted me to be crippled for life. Filled with a cold rage, I threw the scarves and leg warmers my mother had knitted for me into the flames. I burned every family photo we had taken over the past 10 years. Since I was leaving, I didn't want a single trace of my existence left in this house. As I watched everything turn to ash, I made my final decision. I went to my lawyer's office and gave him all the printed materials. I instructed him to use the evidence to file a lawsuit against Leo the next day. Even if I couldn't get him convicted, I would make sure the world knew he was alive and that my family had been hiding him all along. Next, I logged onto my social media accounts. I uploaded all the images and the audio file, and I scheduled them to post simultaneously. Finally, I replied to Leo's message. You think they won't come back for you? Watch me. He took the bait, replying that I could wait all day. They weren't coming back tonight. Not long after, my parents called. They said they still had things to prepare and were having something custom made, so I shouldn't wait up. Perfect. After hanging up, I mailed my final package, a copy of the evidence to the doctor my parents had hired. Then, clutching my plane ticket, I left the house I had called home for a decade and didn't look back. The next day at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for Leo's new company, my father's phone rang. It was the doctor. Mr. Vance, we have a problem. I think your son found out about the accident. He overheard our conversation in the hospital room that day. My father's face turned ashen. He hung up and tried to call me only to find my phone was turned off. Dad, the ceremony is about to start. Let's go, Leo said, pulling him toward the stage. Before he could even touch the ceremonial red ribbon, a murmur rippled through the crowd. That's him, right? The chairman of Vance Industries. What a monster. Covering for his adopted son and letting his real son rot in a wheelchair. Hey, that guy next to him looks familiar. You don't think that's the adopted son, do you? Chloe ran to the stage, holding her phone, her face a mask of terror. Dad, we have a crisis. We have to go now. She dragged my father away, leaving a bewildered Leo standing alone on the stage. In the car, Chloe sped away as my mother demanded to know what was happening. It wasn't until they were home that Chloe found my mother's heart medication and made her take it. Caleb knows. She finally said, he knows we lied to him. What? My mother shrieked. My father sighed heavily. The doctor called me, too. He said, Caleb heard us that day. I've already asked him to come to the house. We'll talk when he gets here. There's no need to wait. Chloe cut him off. Dad. Caleb posted everything online. She handed the phone to my father. The more he scrolled, the paler he became. He played the audio file and his own voice filled the room cold and cruel, instructing the doctor to sabotage my recovery. The comment section was a torrent of outrage. My mother glanced at it once and collapsed, clutching her chest. Even a tiger won't eat its own cubs. What kind of monster lies to his own son to protect the adopted one and cripples him for life? Didn't you hear them say they destroyed the evidence? That's a felony. It won't matter. The wife signed an affidavit of forgiveness for him. It's all legal on paper. Even if he's a criminal, he won't do time for it. The online fury grew. People were incensed that a villain could get away with it all. Chloe was trying to calm my mother down as her phone buzzed nonstop with calls from friends demanding to know if she was cheating on her husband. My father saw the screenshots from Chloe's private Instagram and exploded. "I told you to leave no trace. Why didn't you delete the chat history and you posted pictures? Are you an idiot?" Chloe looked wounded. "Dad, how was I supposed to know he'd go through my phone and find my private account?" The doctor arrived soon after. He handed a folder to my father and "Mr. Vance, I warned you about this. You wouldn't listen. Now my name is being dragged through the mud online. I'm going back to Europe. Everything I did was at your explicit request, not at my own volition, a fact the recording makes quite clear. Consider the debt for your past generosity paid. Goodbye." He stood up and walked out before my father could say another word. Before leaving the country, the doctor posted a statement on his LinkedIn page clarifying his position. The recording did show him advising my father against his plan. So the public backlash against him was minimal. My father, now besieged, was fielding frantic calls from the various subsidiary companies under the Vance Industries umbrella. That's when Leo stormed in. "Dad, what we do now?" Reporters were swarming my office, asking if I was Leo Hayes. I had to show them my new ID just to get away. You can't let them expose my real identity. Looking at his selfish, panicked face, my father's expression hardened. The housekeeper said, "Your brother left. I had someone check. He flew to Europe. While he's gone, you need to make a public statement. Say you were young and foolish. That you're sorry for what you did. It's the best way to handle this. You have the affidavit. You won't go to jail." Leo shook his head vehemently. "No way, Dad. Did you forget? Chloe and I never got a real marriage license. If that comes out, I could still go to prison. I can't risk it." My father's face darkened. "Then what do you suggest we do?" "I'll go back to London and hide just like before. You tell the public that Caleb had a mental breakdown, that he's crazy. Say the audio is AI generated and the chats are photoshopped." Hearing this, not just my father, but Chloe and my mother began to tremble with rage. "So you run and hide in London and leave us to clean up this mess?" My mother snapped. "Don't you know audio can be authenticated? You can't just claim it's fake and have people believe you. And those chat locks, I'm being destroyed online because of them. People are accusing me of bigamy, threatening to have me arrested." Chloe screamed, blocking the door. "We cleaned up your mess 5 years ago. This time, you're going to face it with us. This is your fault anyway. You just had to provoke him with those messages and pictures. You got too comfortable." Leo turned to my parents, pleading, but my mother spoke, her voice low and trembling. "Leo, have we spoiled you all these years? Did we ruin you? You knew you had to be careful when you came back, but you left a trail of evidence for Caleb to find. You provoked him. If you hadn't, he never would have put your father and me in this position. You have been so reckless." Leo started to argue, but his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his face contorted in fury. "Caleb hired a lawyer to sue me. He knows he doesn't have enough evidence. He's just doing this to screw with me. Who told him my new name?" His eyes, dark and menacing, swept across the three of them. He didn't know that his new identity was easy to find. The real estate company my parents started for him was registered with him, Leo Peterson, as the CEO. He had taken my mother's maiden name. It was the first thing I guessed. My parents and Chloe recoiled from his venomous glare. It was the first time in over 20 years he had ever looked at them with such hatred. "You suspect us?" My father yelled, his finger jabbing at Leo's chest. "If we wanted to sell you out, we would have handed you over to the police 5 years ago. Why would we go to all the trouble of faking your death and sending you to live in luxury overseas? You ungrateful bastard." Leo reined in his anger, his voice becoming eerily calm. "That's not what I meant, Dad. I know you've always been good to me, but if I have to appear in court, my reputation as a businessman will be ruined. How can I run a company then? Who cares about your stupid company at a time like this? Sell the building tomorrow. Once this blows over, you could go back to London and keep your head down." Hearing my father essentially order him to face the court, a deep-seated resistance flashed in Leo's eyes, but he didn't say anything else. In the days that followed, my father didn't even dare leave the house. Vance Industries' stock plummeted. The shareholders demanded an explanation. They argued that a man of such poor character was unfit to remain chairman of the board. Facing a unified revolt, my father was forced to step down. Chloe was busy trying to find me, leaving Leo at the villa to watch Noah and my parents. After being accused of bigamy, she released her British marriage certificate with Leo, which only led to more attacks. She was branded a calculating gold digger, trying to secure her future with the heir, but keeping the spare on the side when the heir was injured. Even my mother was vilified online, condemned for her war priorities and cruel deception of her own son. Someone uploaded a video from my birthday party. I thought it was weird at the time, the son calling that waiter daddy and letting him cut Caleb's cake. Now it makes sense. That was Leo. They have the same birthday. They were swapped at the hospital. The real heir was orphaned at 5 and lived in foster care for 10 years before they found him. And every birthday after that, he was pushed into a corner while the fake heir got all the attention. That's right. At the party, the fake one fell in the pool with him. Now I'm starting to think he was pushed. They said the real heir was suicidal. Please, if he was going to do it, he would have done it years ago, not on his birthday. And he's in a wheelchair. How could he overpower a healthy adult man? The fake one was obviously lying. Leo's story about the pool was picked apart. People who knew him from his youth came forward, confirming that it was exactly the kind of stunt he would pull. The most extreme netizens found our family's villa in Greenwich. They camped outside, throwing trash over the gates and holding signs demanding that the Vance family hand over the fake son to face legal judgment. 2 weeks later, Chloe found me. By then, I'd already had my surgeries. The doctor said with 3 months of rest, I would be able to walk again. The other procedure was also against all odds of success. It was as if fate itself was giving me a second chance. When Chloe appeared in my hospital bed, she was gaunt and haggard. Caleb, I'm so sorry. I cut her off with a cold laugh. Don't call me that. And I'm not your husband. Caleb, believe it or not, I have always loved you. But your father, when he heard the surgery to restore your fertility, had a low chance of success, and he didn't want Leo to go to prison. He forced me to marry Leo and have his child. That way, even if you found out the truth, Leo's son would still be the undisputed heir. I didn't have a choice. Enough, Chloe. Don't paint yourself as some tragic victim. You had your own selfish reasons. You figured if I became the heir, being with me was a good bet. But if I was out of the picture and Leo's son became the heir, you'd still win. You are at your core just as selfish as he is. Exposed, her face went slack and tears streamed down her cheeks. But my care for you, my love, all these years, that was real, can't you? For the sake of the last 10 years, forgive me. Never. These are the consequences of your choices, Chloe. You live with him. I pressed the call button for the nurse and told her this woman was not to be allowed in my room again. Chloe was escorted out, sobbing. A week later, the news announced that Leo's case was going to a public hearing. I watched the live stream online. Leo's expression was as arrogant as ever. You're going to convict me based on some chat logs that might not even be real, he scoffed. If you don't have any actual evidence, you should let me go right now. My lawyer was brilliant. Without any new hard evidence. He verbally dismantled Leo for 2 hours straight, using sarcasm and insinuation to lay out the entire sordid affair, including the fake marriage. Leo was practically steaming, but he was no match for the lawyer's wit. To my esteemed colleague on the defense, my lawyer said with a grand gesture, I believe this entire situation is, to use the technical legal term, absolutely shameless. Wouldn't you agree? He was even asking Leo's own lawyer for validation. Leo's lawyer buried his face in his files, refusing to speak, muttering just loud enough for the microphone to pick up, damn rich people. If I knew I was going to be publicly humiliated like this, I never would have taken this moron's case. A ripple of suppressed laughter went through the courtroom. By the end of the hearing, Leo's face had gone from red to a deep shade of purple. It was almost funny. Still, I felt a pang of disappointment. All this would do was make him a social pariah in the States. He was getting off easy, but I never expected that my parents and Chloe would be the ones to deliver his final punishment. After that day in court, a heavy gloom fell over the Vance villa. My father hadn't been to the office since being forced out by the board. My mother spent her days crying. She begged Chloe to find me and bring me home, but Chloe had to tell her I refused to see her. That's when they discovered that I had systematically erased myself from the house. Every gift from them, every memento of my time with Chloe. I had burned it all in the study. Not a single photograph remained. My Caleb, he must hate me. I should have never been so weak. I should have never listened to you all. My mother wailed. Her crying grated on my father's nerves. Enough. We all made this mistake together. What good is crying now? Chloe, you said he had surgery in Europe, right? Find a way to wire him some money. It's the least we can do to try and make it up to him. That was too much for Leo. He shot up from a sofa. Dad, you can't give him money. He's the one who ruined us. Made us into outcasts. How can you still be on his side? The sudden, furious shout made his son burst into tears. Chloe scooped the boy into her arms, glaring at Leo. You scared him. This was your fault to begin with. We were all just trying to protect you, to atone for your sin. How dare you blame us? Leo's eyes turned venomous. Don't think I don't know how many times you slept with him these past 5 years. I should be disgusted by you, you filthy, and now you dare to lecture me. You bastard. Chloe, furious, dropped Noah and lunged at him. Crack. Leo slapped her so hard she fell to the floor. My father was enraged. Look at what you become. We spoiled you rotten. Seeing the bloodlust in Leo's eyes, he roared, What? Are you going to hit your own father now, too? A strange twisted smile spread across Leo's face. Dad, how could I ever hit you? My son is the future and only heir to Vance Industries. I have to take good care of you. Hearing him finally say it out loud, my father's face turned crimson. In your dreams, even if Caleb is in Europe, he is still my son. We have not downed him. I'm calling my lawyer right now to draw up a new will. When I die, you Leo Hayes won't get a single penny of the Vance fortune. I'm cutting you off. My father pulled out his phone, but before he could dial, Leo swatted it out of his hand and sent it skittering across the floor. He stomped on it, shattering the screen. Dad, for 25 years, you and Mom loved me most. We were the real family. You want to throw me away and give everything to that Caleb? Not a chance. I served you for years. Even an adopted son has inheritance rights. You can't take that away from me. You never served anyone. My mother shrieked from the side. We never let you suffer a day in your life. You had drivers, housekeepers. It was Caleb who suffered. Caleb who grew up with nothing. You were jealous of him. But did you ever stop to think that he's our real son? If he hadn't been switched at birth, where would you be? You wouldn't have had any of this. Instead of being grateful, you were jealous. You almost killed him. And even after that, we still chose you. We lied for you, and this is how you repay us. Mom, you were against protecting me from the start. Don't pretend you aren't biased toward Caleb. Leo had never screamed at my mother like that. The shock sent her stumbling back, clutching her chest, her face turning a frightening shade of blue. Mom! Chloe cried out and ran to find her medication. My father, shaking with rage, slapped Leo across the face. Look what you've done. If anything happens to your mother, I'll throw you out on the street myself. In his entire life, neither of them had ever laid a finger on Leo. That slap shattered the last of his sanity. You hit me. You hit me for that worthless piece of trash, Caleb. He shoved my father with all his might. My father stumbled backward, lost his footing, and the back of his head struck the corner of the marble coffee table. He lay still. Leo sneered. Get up, Dad. Stop faking. You're not making that call today. But then he saw my father's wide, unblinking eyes and the dark red blood pooling on the white marble. He realized something was terribly wrong. He scrambled down, his hands trembling as he checked for a pulse. His face went white. He crawled backward away from the body. It wasn't my fault. I didn't mean to. Just then, Chloe returned with the medicine. She saw the scene and let out a blood-curdling scream. Leo, what did you do to Dad? Leo scrambled to his feet and lunged, clamping a hand over her mouth. My mother, barely conscious, was crawling toward my father. When she saw he wasn't breathing, she let out a final guttural cry and went limp. Chloe bit down hard on Leo's hand. He yelped and let go. Mom. She rushed to my mother, trying to force the pills in her mouth, but it was too late. She was gone. My father had dismissed the housekeeper and all the staff weeks ago. It was just Chloe and Leo in the house and their 5-year-old son crying in the corner. Lo, Mom and Dad loved you so much, and you killed them. I'm calling the police. Chloe's eyes were bloodshot with grief and rage. Before she could finish, Leo grabbed a heavy crystal ashtray from side table and brought it down on her head. He didn't stop, hitting her again and again until she was silent. You bitch, he panted. Still think you're Caleb's little hero. Go to hell. He knew it was over. There was no escape. And with that knowledge, the fear left him. It was morning in Switzerland when I got the call from the old housekeeper. He told me Leo had set the villa on fire. He and his 5-year-old son were inside. I was stunned, but thinking of Leo's spoiled, selfish, and violent nature, I wasn't entirely surprised. My parents and Chloe had raised a monster, and in the end, that monster had devoured them. They got what they deserved. 3 months later, my leg was fully healed. I could walk. I returned to the States to handle my parents' affairs and officially inherited my father's controlling shares of Vance Industries. My new life was just